I am the Contrarian, and this is my world.
My name is Alan Mamedi, CEO and co-founder of Truecaller. Let's find out the truth about Truecaller.
Truecaller. I think as you watch the show, I'm sure most of you, if I ask the question, will have a yes to this. It is India's biggest market, and the question is, do you have Truecaller in your phone, and can you live without it once you've got it? But is that all there is? Do you truly know how it functions? How does it know that your information, contacts, unrecognized numbers that are calling you for the first time, it can put a name, a designation, and a company to it? How does it do that? Are there privacy and security issues? And can this app really grow further and become something else? Well, today, we're going to find out all. So first, thank you so much for coming. India being one of your biggest markets, or the biggest market, right?
The biggest market, yes.
So let's just start this story from the beginning. Why did you think of Truecaller? That very first time that you said, I wish something like this could happen. That's the eureka moment. But there's a lot more that goes into finally coming up with an app. Can you just take us through quickly the start of this?
Yeah, sure. So me and my co-founder Nami, back in 2009, we were both getting tons of phone calls from different parts of the world. And you know, today we're living in a world where it's very hectic. You get tons of phone calls. How do you prioritize them, and so forth? And it's not only about, you know, where in the world is this number coming from? It's also, what's the name of this person? How do I know that person, and so forth? And we're looking into this, and we're thinking, like, let's try to build something for our own needs, to save time, but also in some way to be able to choose how do I want to live my daily life. And so we built this as our own service.
Okay, so that's typical of a very successful app that has had very humble beginnings. But there's another part of the story that I really want to find out about, and that is to have the confidence to do something. I mean, a lot of people, of course, who use Truecaller may not be aware that you're actually relying a lot on crowdsourcing. It's each user's contact and database and the name that we save against a phone number that becomes your nerve center. Your core is that, right? Right in the beginning, when you had 10,000 people, or 5,000 people. Obviously, you were not that efficient. Your information and knowledge was not that good. Out of calls that people were getting at that time, maybe 1 out of 3 were tracked, but the other 2 were still unrecognized. That initial phase, was that a nervous time for you?
No, not at all. I mean, just as any kind of service, there's a network effect around it, like WhatsApp. If no one is on WhatsApp, then it's useless.
Right.
Just as Facebook, you have to start somewhere. And I think what we looked at was what other services can we offer to our users, which is not that dependent on the data quality that we have, such as the call blocking and so forth. And over time, we built a much stronger database of information. But what's also important, which is also a misconception, is that we don't crowdsource people's phone books and make them publicly searchable. The data is actually coming from people tagging information. Like after a phone call, we might not have that information, so we ask you, who was this? And with different algorithms, we can make sure that, okay, this person is, you know, Rajiv, because 50 other people said so.
I get that part, but the part that surprises me is you're saying that you don't necessarily have to get my contacts and my information and my numbers from my database, but that is primarily the first thing that happens when you install Truecaller, is that it does ask me for permission to take my contacts, access to my contacts and my names in my database, and does upload it onto your servers. Now, the security of those and everything else we'll get into later, but that is the primary business. The business model, because without that you couldn't be this efficient, right? So am I right or wrong?
You're partly right.
So what part is wrong?
So the part that is wrong is that we take your contacts and make them searchable. We don't do that.
Okay.
So there is a secret sauce around this. How do we make this better? And I would say the strongest part is actually the community, tagging information. We built advanced crawlers that goes to the web, tries to find, okay, we couldn't find a match on this number. Now let's try to find it on the internet.
Okay, so you're saying that it's not a searchable database that is available on most people, but you went through a bit of a controversy with one time where I think there was some small time hack that happened, and then there was also your website which actually had some searchable database, which once you became aware, you took it away. And while of course it's great to talk about controversies, I'm not really going to dwell too much on it because you seem to have done a good job with it, but you do stand with an incredible amount of power. I mean, today, big data, and especially customizable data, tagged data, data about who has what phone number and what does he do, are very powerful spaces. So do you take this responsibility seriously? Because you are in a very powerful position to abuse it.
Of course we do. And also, once you become a Truecaller user, it's up to you. You can decide what information should be visible. What should my name be if I don't want to be Alan in Truecaller? Even though the community might say, my name is Alan, I can still decide, as long as I own that number, I can decide that my name is not Alan today, it's Batman.
Okay.
But the difference is, if I write Batman, I won't get the Truecaller badge, the true badge that says, okay, this, he's
verified and
exactly. He says who, the name he says is correct. And so we try to use the technology to verify the information in a better way, but you're still in control of your information.
If I'm not a Truecaller user, my name is still on the database, and it seems to be fairly accurate. Now, if I'm not a Truecaller user, I do not have a tag which is tick marked. I have not sat down and corrected my database. You still seem to get my name pretty accurately, right? How does that happen?
So if you think about it, we have over 60 million users in India. Our users are so engaged that the data they contribute with makes our algorithms, our NLP systems, to actually always, not always, but very often, pick the correct ones. So I would say in a new country where we start to grow, the accuracy might be slightly less good as in India, but over time it always becomes better.
No company today can rest on its laurels at all. You need to do more, and Truecaller also seems to be doing that. So first, take us through all the new things that you're adding on, and then of course my question would be, aren't you going away from your core?
No, but honestly, if you look at Truecaller, if you compare it today with 4 years ago, there's actually a lot of things we have removed. We've been very data driven from day one.
Okay.
We need to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we remove, or whatever we add, we need to make sure that it makes sense. What we have added over time are details that we believe or that our users has been asking for that makes the service even better, like the Verify badge, as I mentioned. 2 years ago, our users were screaming like, we want to be able to search by name. And we were thinking like, okay, there might be, I don't know, say 100 million Deepaks in India. I'm just throwing a figure out.
Sure.
How do you find the right Deepak? And we were thinking like, okay, number lookup, you enter a number, you get Deepak, that's easy. But how do you find the right Deepak? So we started to work on our own social graph. And this took us 6 months of engineering to figure out how do we make sure that when you search for Deepak, you get the right Deepak in the top 5. So these are the kind of things.
So what does it take into consideration? Connections between me and Deepak?
Based on basically the people you have in your phone book, who do you have in common with other people?
Exactly, right.
Just as it does on any social network, but in this case, you don't have to go in and say, this is my friend, this is my friend, this is my friend. Your phone book, that's your real friends.
Now let's get down to some of the other features. One of them, of course, is almost artificial intelligence, predictive. And that is, Truecaller wants to tell me about the fact that I actually need to contact or should be contacting or usually will contact so-and-so person because it's looking at frequency, my usage patterns and everything else. Is that necessary? I mean, isn't that kind of very big brother, a little hawkish?
We recently launched Truecaller 5. One of the big things in Truecaller 5 was actually replacing your contact book. Because we saw that our users over time, they stopped saving contacts to their phone books because they were just relying on that the contacts were in the Truecaller cloud. So that was one of the big things in Truecaller, that we manage your contacts that you have locally, and we make sure that you don't need to care about the contacts you don't have because they are already in the Truecaller cloud and they are always updated. When it comes to suggested, this was one of the features that people were screaming for. They were like, we want an even easier way to call people. What's interesting and what's good to know is that the prediction is happening locally on your device based on your call history. It has nothing to do with the server.
What is it that you're trying to achieve? So, I mean, I understand what you're doing. I'm not understanding the final destination of this.
We want to make sure that your whole communication experience is excellent. And we think that over time, people will not want to actually enter something. Their phone should be doing things for them. And that's why we think that this is a very exciting area, how we can help people to save time.
Absolute final question. This is called my crystal ball gazing question, and that is 3 years from now, because in the app world to say 5 or 7 is impossible. 3 years from now, where do you think Truecaller will be?
Well, in 3 years, I really hope that Truecaller will be on every single device.
Okay.
I want it to be a standard. I want Truecaller to be the de facto platform for every kind of communication. I think it's important for a company to continue to innovate, otherwise you will die.
Correct.
But you don't necessarily need to innovate with new features. I think WhatsApp is a great example where their innovation is actually making it better on the back end.
Okay, fantastic. Now, how about leaving everybody with a tease?
So we have one new product coming out this year. In a couple of months. I can't give you more info on that one, but we're really looking forward to that one.
Okay, so do you want to tell us the name of it or what it does? Anyone? I mean, they say the true tease is when you tease enough, right? So do you want to tease enough on that, or leave
it will be named True something. The other part will reveal the whole product. So
all right, great. So what we'll do is thank you so much for coming all the way here.
Thank you very much.
It's fantastic having you here, and of course, we'd love to have you back after the True something is released. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks a lot. So that then is Truecaller. If you've always been thinking the mystery, the aura, the magic of Truecaller and how it does it all, plus all the other little bulbs that keep going off in your head, is my contact and database safe? What about my privacy, security? Well, I think we got almost all the answers. We'll see you next week right here on The Contrarian. Thank you so much.
I am the Contrarian, and this